صباح الخير. اليوم راح نتكلم عن محاضرة جديدة. We're talking about the mandibular second molar. In the last lecture we discussed the mandibular first molar. Today we'll talk about the mandibular second molar. Then we'll talk about the mandibular third molar. The mandibular second molar is the seventh mandibular tooth, as we know, from the midline. It supplements the first molar function. بالضبط هو يساعد الفيرست molar الوظيفة. Its anatomy شكله similar to the first molar, mandibular first molar, but different some details. بعض التفاصيل أكو فروقات بيناتها. فراح نعتمد اليوم بالشرح على شنو كالعادة comparison between the mandibular second molar with the we'll compare the mandibular first molar with the mandibular second molar, or we'll compare the mandibular second molar with the mandibular first molar. Let's start with aspect by aspect. We'll start first with the buccal aspect. مثل ما كنا نشرح قبل, this one is the mandibular first molar. It is a mandibular right first molar. This one is the mandibular left second molar. Okay, so this is the right, this is left, this is first, this is second. So this is mesial, this is mesial, this is distal, this is distal. Let's start with the differences. First of all, the crown here in the second molar is shorter cervico-occlusally and narrower mediodistally than that of the mandibular first molar. Look to the size, compare. This one is larger than this one, occlusocervically and mediodistally. The second difference, there is no two developmental group, just one. Look, just one buccal developmental group. In the first molar we will have two developmental groups. This one we name it the mediobuccal developmental group. This one the distobuccal developmental group. Here we have just one in the buccal developmental group, which is separated, or which is a demarcating line between the mediobuccal cusp and the distobuccal cusp. And these two cusps are nearly equal in size. هذا أول فرق. الفرق الآخر, there is no distal cusp. لأن ماكو distobuccal group. شوف هنا ماكو distobuccal group, وبالتالي there is no distal cusp. So it's just two cusps. Here three cusps. Here just one buccal developmental groups. Here we have two buccal developmental groups. Here there is no distal cusp. Here there is a distal cusp. Look to the roots. The roots may be shorter than that of the first molar, but they vary as well in the development generally. Look to between them, but in general it is shorter. This one is shorter than that one. بعد the roots are usually closer to each other. وهذا أنا شرحته من كل الفروقات between the first, second, and third molar. When we move from the first molar to the third molar, we'll find these differences. من ضمنهن root راح يكون أقصر. Both roots become closer to each other as we move distally كل مرة. The second, the third molar, these roots become shorter, less developed, closer to each other, maybe fused parallel to each other. وبعد منه sorry, the inclination toward the distal size increase. كلها شرحتها أنا بفروقات من شرحت محاضرة في second and third molar. أفر طبعا maxillary. كنت أقارنه ويا maxillary first molar. نفس الفروقات هنا حنشوفها نفس الشيء. حنشوف these roots are closer to each other than that of the mandibular first molar, and maybe fused. هذا الفيوجن differ. ممكن يكون بالcervical third, middle third, may reach the apical third. The roots are inclined distally in relation to the occlusal plane of the crown. Their axes in the roots together with the long axis of the tooth, they form an angle angle. This angle is more acute. This angle is more acute than that found in the mandibular first molar. Okay? Look. This is the inclination. This is the occlusal plane. هاي الزاوية راح تكون acute. Okay? Finally, the distal root longer than the medial root. Let's shift to another aspect, which is the lingual aspect. Again, this is the mandibular first molar lingual side. This is the right. Mandibular second molar left. So this is distal, this is distal, this is medial, this is medial. Okay? From here, only the lingual cusps are in view. Just the two lingual cusps, اللي هو medial lingual, distal lingual cusp, والسبب the tips of the two lingual cusps are higher than that of the buccal cusp, so we couldn't see any part of the buccal cusp. That's the lingual cusp. Part of the distal portion of the medial root block. This is the medial root. هذا كله medial root. The medial root have a medial portion and a distal portion. هذا الميجر root كله B medial portion and distal portion. Okay? From this aspect, lingual aspect, part of the distal portion اللي هو هذا, part of the distal portion could be seen. Part of the distal portion of the medial root may be seen through deforcation. ليش? Because the medial root is twisted. Medial root is twisted. Because it's twisted, so I can see part of the distal portion of the medial root. Okay? The crown and the root of the second molar converge lingually. بالضبط ما شرحنا بالفيرست molar إن lingual is narrower than buccal. ليش? Because the tooth is converged lingually. Here the convergence found, but in a slight degree. Here the convergence is more. ذكرنا شرحنا قلنا converged lingual, so part of the medial and part of the distal aspect could be seen, and part of the medial aspect could be seen from this aspect, from the lingual aspect. ليش؟ لأن السن converged lingually. Here the same, it's converged lingual but in a less degree, or to a slight degree أقل. So طبيعي ايش حيكون؟ The part that could be seen from medial or distal is less in comparison with that of the mandibular first molar. Convergent هنا أقل من هنا، وبالتالي الجزء اللي حيشوفه من الديستال أو الميجال aspect حيكون شنو؟ أو الميجال حيكون أقل. The second molar أقل من ال first molar. The medial-distal measurement at the cervix. Look, here the medial-distal measurement at the cervix اللي represents the neck of the tooth هذه أقل مما هي هنا. So the medial-distal measurement of the second molar, mandibular second molar, is more than that of the medial-distal measurement at the cervix in the mandibular first molar. The curvature that describes the contact area, this curvature or cervical line, look, mesial and distal are more noticeable. أوضح. Here this is irregular. تذكرون شرحنا there is tapering here in the middle toward the deforcation area. تذكرون من المحاضرة اللي فاتت. Here we are talking about, no, look to the curvature is toward the occlusal and more noticeable from the lingual side, and they are slightly lower level. I'm talking about the the contact area. again, sorry, quarter of a cervical line, it is locked, the curvature here and the curvature there. Then we will talk about now the curvature of the contact area here and here. Mesial curvature, distal curvature that represent the position of the contact area. These curvatures, mesial and distally, are more noticeable than that of the mandibular first molar and more lower level. تذكرون هنا بالmandibular first molar when we talked about the mesial contact area when كانت at the junction between the occlusal and middle third, while here in the center of the middle third. Here the mesial contact area is more lower and the distal contact area is more lower position than that of the mandibular first molar. Let's shift to another aspect, the mesial aspect. Look, here we have the mesial aspect of the mandibular first molar, mesial aspect of the mandibular second molar. The cervical ridge, the crown, is the elevation here, the cervical ridge, buccally. Look, here is the buccal, because this is one is right and this one is left, so this is the buccal. Look to the cervical ridge. The cervical ridge or cervical ridge buccal is less pronounced, أقل ما هو هنا. So if I talk about the first molar, so the cervical ridge or cervical ridge buccal is more pronounced than that of the mandibular second molar, while here the cervical is less pronounced than that of the mandibular first molar. The occlusal surface is constructed buccolingually. So the distance from here to here is less than that from here to here. This occlusal surface, look at the occlusal surface, distance from buccal to lingual, which we call buccolingual dimension of the occlusal surface, is more than that of the mandibular second molar. While if I compare the second with the first, I will say that the occlusal surface may be more constricted buccal than that of the mandibular first molar. Look to the cervical line, show less curvature. Look here, more curvature, here less curvature and nearly straight and more regular. Here, part of the distal root may be seen. Look, this is the mandibular second molar to left. Here's the lingual, here's the buccal. So look, this is the distal root. This is the mesial root. This is the distal root. Part of the distal root could be seen طبعا buccally, يعني هذا buccal, هذا lingual. Part of the distal root look, could be seen from the buccal and part of an apex and apical. Look, buccally, part of the distal root and apically, part of the apex of the distal root could be seen. While this is not found in the mandibular first molar, nothing, I could see nothing. But if it has happened, if part of the distal root appear, it will appear lingually هنا. وبالعادة ما يبين. شرحنا هذا الحكي بالمحاضرة اللي فاتت last lecture. We talk about the mesial aspect of the mandibular first molar, and I say that this root, the mesial is broad and wide, so nothing could be seen. But if part of the distal root appear in the mesial aspect, it will appear lingually, while here it will appear buccal. Let's shift to another aspect, the distal aspect. This is the mandibular first molar, this is the mandibular second molar. This is distal aspect, this is distal aspect. This is buccal, this is lingual, this is buccal, this is lingual. There is no distal cusp. Here is distal cusp, there is no distal cusp. And there is no distobuccal groove. لا أكو distal buccal groove ولا أكو distal cusp. The contact area. As you remember, the contact area, I said that the contact area here is more more buccally of the center, while here the contact area is here. The contact area is in the center, buccolingually, and in the center occlusocervically, اللي هي من cervical line or cervical line to the marginal ridge. So it's exactly here, in the center of the distal aspect, in the center buccolingually, and in the center occlusocervically. While here, as you remember from the last lecture, it is found in the distal cusp. Part of the mesial root may be seen. Look, this is distal root. This is the mesial root. Part of the mesial root will be seen to an aspect on the buccal side. When they show in the buccal side. تذكرون the first molar? The opposite is true. Part of the mesial root could be seen, but where? Lingual. So, this is distal aspect. The distal root is smaller or narrower than the mesial root. So, part of the mesial root could be seen. In the lower mandibular second molar, I can see part of the mesial root buccally. While the first mandibular molar, I can see the mesial root lingual. The last aspect is the occlusal aspect. As I said before, this is the mandibular. This is the mandibular first molar. This is the mandibular. Second molar, the occlusal aspect. The differences. Instead of 5 cusps, تذكروها شرحنا large one, next, buccal, lingual, lingual, buccal, distal. Here I have 4 cusps. The 4 cusps nearly have equal size. Mesial buccal, distal buccal, mesial lingual, distal lingual. Again, this is the mesial lingual, mesial buccal, distal lingual, distal buccal. Okay, but this is the buccal side, this is the lingual side. Okay, so this is the first difference. 5 cusps, here 4 cusps, and 4 cusps are nearly equal in size. The occlusal developmental grooves are centered between the cusps. Here, how many developmental grooves have a central, mesiobuccal, buccal, lingual. Here, the developmental grooves are centered between the cusps, which is the central groove, buccal groove, lingual groove. The buccal and lingual groove, developmental grooves, meet the central groove at a right angle. Look, meet each other at a right angle at the central bit in the occlusal surface. These grooves form a shape of cross, salim, a shape of cross, dividing the occlusal portion into 4 cusps, and these cusps are nearly equal in size. There is no distal cusp. Look, here's a distal cusp. There is no distal cusp. وطبعا there is no distal buccal developmental groove. The last difference here, look, there is less supplemental grooves, while here is more supplemental grooves. هاي واحدة من الفروقات اللي شرحتها في المحاضرة اللي فاتت. عفوا اللي قبلها قلنا كل ما نروح distally، كل ما نتحرك من ال first to the second to the third حيصير less developed، والsupplemental group أكثر، والaccidental group تكون أكثر.